Like the outcome of doing anything with AI nowadays is honestly a function of how fast you iterate through ideas, right? Because like 90% of your ideas are going to
Mhm.
fail, and then one or two are going to work, and then you're good to go. So literally just how fast can you power through those ideas is probably the single biggest predictor of if that thing's going to work or not. So I knew that, and I wanted to bring that ability to my PhD research. I was like, hey, maybe I can finish this thing in like 3 years, right, as opposed to six or whatever.
Ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking back now, it's not a good idea, but yeah, that was the goal, right? And so
I know the feeling.
yeah, and so I took my code from my undergrad days and kind of brushed it off. And then at that point, I had already switched to PyTorch. So I was like, okay, well, let me just rewrite this thing in PyTorch and see how it goes. So I started working with, again, NLP at that point, and then we moved into like audio research, right, to do speech synthesis and so on. And all of that using the same code, right? So it was interesting because like the first code was for NLP, and then I modified it to work for audio and then vision and so on. And then eventually, I don't think it was quite there at that abstraction level yet because I was still having to do a lot of bespoke code. But then I don't know what happened. Like, I guess over the winter, something clicked, and then, the trainer got factored out. And then it just became obvious that at that point, you need to separate the model from the hardware. And so that's what Lightning became. Then I open sourced it, and then I jumped Facebook research that summer as an intern at Fair and, continued my PhD research. And there you have a giant cluster, right? And I was like, okay, well, if I have Facebook resources, what can I do? and very ambitious in terms of like trying to do research ideas. So we were trying to scale up like massive data sets on the cluster as much as we could, right? So I was consistently training, 500 GPU models, that kind of stuff all the time at Fair with this framework. And then, people noticed because that the cluster, there was like a handful of teams across Facebook that was using the cluster that efficiently, but the rest of the teams weren't because it takes a lot to do, training at scale. And so, I started working with those people because they're experts at this, right? And so we embedded a lot of those practices into Lightning and then ended up with a framework now that can do really scalable training.